Well, hello there. How are you? Welcome back to the channel. The day before the important day. I'm kidding, it is the important day, just not quite yet. Some hours before the season starts. Alright, so raids are done. Multiverse Arena, the Blind Beast game, Babysit, Tohan, everybody else. So I need to get that baby Dracula somewhere, somehow. Some gecko. Wait, I need to check something. The Jimmy, I am doing okay. I mean, overall, great scheme of things, I suppose it's not too bad. How I finished, what net? What yet? Who is Vislabakajam with? Haha! It's in Latvian. Imbalanced. Volume quest? Yeah, I did it. Did that thing. Of course I did. Then video or Chels and that, but I disagree. I think they need to tweak things. I do think they do need, obviously, because you know there needs to be innovation and stuff like that. But I do think that for the most part they have gone overboard with it. Like the biggest issue, the biggest point is we have way too many champions that are effectively auto lose. That I think is the biggest problem. It's not that, you know, some of those mechanics are somewhere there. It's more so the end result of a champion like Serpent and a generic meta that has nodes on. Because that takes away from the fun of the game. It makes it less of a fighting game, more of an like RPG fitting a puzzle and pure luck of getting the counters. You know what I mean? What does the stream title mean? I don't know, you tell me. Giving champion too many abilities. Well, and I do think about genuinely overcomplicate some things. Like, what, like, remember, Sith, like, how, okay, I'm gonna do this very quickly, and I know I'm getting sidetracked immediately at the beginning of this. But me and Sith Supreme, no, it's not because I'm BG focused, but we have a ton of champions like, here's gonna be the explanation. We have a ton of champions like Taurus effectively, or this has affected a huge portion of the champs in the game, where it almost seems as if Kabam is giving them abilities for the sake of giving them abilities. Serpent isn't the problem. Again, like, that's fine, but he is in BGs, and BGs is one of the central game modes. Even the opposite end ruins it with hard counters, very hard, basically choosing defender who. Well, yeah, that also, the fact that you have like these champs like that, you know, are impossible to kill unless you, like Bullseye, like he's impossible to do well unless you have somebody that does him, and then most of the champions do him, he goes down like 40 seconds or 45 or something. But the point is where I'm getting on. Where is that stupid Falcon? I can't even recognize his profile picture. I think another big reason for like these champions feeling kind of half the time is Taurus. Look at all of this text. Me and Sith Supreme, when we were on a call, I went over the entire kit of Falcon, Hawk, and Taurus, and he effectively has like 3 abilities or 2 abilities, basically, because If you take just about all of his abilities, Falcon's power allows him to regenerate unnatural. Falcon instantly regenerates 40% of damage taken during the opponent's special attacks. This opponent, okay, so he has like a bit of regen on you know, the block, whatever. You can just achieve effectively the same effect, increasing his block proficiency and armor, kind of, you know. So if you take down armor or resistances or whatever. So this is like, but fine. Because it's not like a region, it's just a damage offset. All of this is just basically a bit of damage offset. You don't mess up. Falcon's lethal talents allow for deadly finishing strike. Fourth light attack inflicts debilitate. This debilitate debuff in itself inflicts, you know, it does nothing but extends the duration of your debuffs. This effectively can be replaced by just slightly duration of any or all of his debuffs. Falcon gains a precision buff when using dexterity mastery. Falcon does not gain precision, instead he pauses trauma debuffs. Okay, that, you know, fine, whatever. So he pauses his summon debuffs that does not necessarily need to be there. Each fighter thrust is heightened, Red Wing is assigned defensive instinct. Falcon benefits different effects while Red Wing's in different instincts. Red Wing swaps instincts when Falcon lands a second medium attack, swaps their opponent's special attack. When Red Wing swaps instincts, Falcon inflicts physical vulnerability. Again, physical vulnerability, what is it? It hits hard, it increases base attack, and that's, you know, similar type of situation here. It's kind of like giving him debuffs that ultimately account to nothing. It's only things that they do is the fact that those are debuffs, so they interact with shrug of abilities, or, you know, they interact with masteries like despair and equity. But other than that, they're just changing his base stats here. You know, regen on block from the special attacks or whatever, that's just making him a bit chunkier. You could just do that in the base stats. You know, physical vulnerability, give him, like, you know, more attack or more crit rate, and he would get the same effect basically. It doesn't even have to be an ability to basically achieve, you know, the same end result. Getting Bulwark passive, increasing block proficiency. Again, you can just increase the block proficiency. It doesn't have to be necessarily a line in his text. And this is the one ability that he has. He has slow. Right? And then you go further. While opponents suffering from slow effect, they are more aggressive. Falcons 40% in trauma. Again, what trauma does, it re-inflicts some of your damage. So again, it's just like a basic, you know, damage add-on that can be achieved in plenitude of different ways. And the rest of his kit, you know, is the same. It just does nothing. He has like one ability, which is Fury, and the fact that he inflicts a bunch of debuffs on the opponent. That's why Falcon kind of sucks. Because he actually has no abilities. He has slow. Yeah, I think I'm running Bullseye roll. Bullseye should be good. Decently good, yeah. But Elsa has already one of the crit rates in game, by the way. One of the highest crit rates in game. Highest natural crit rates. But anyway, I hope you kind of got the point, guys. Kabam does a ton of flavor text for abilities that are like 1/3 as potent as, you know, many of the old champions have. That it's just a ton of champions seem like they have done a whole bunch of busy work rather than designing them. It's not whether you agree or not. It's statistically, it also has one of the highest crit rates in game. Saga, but not many people can. I mean, it's not just him though. It's, you know, a lot of champions have effectively similar issue, where half of their kit does nothing or is completely irrelevant. Like, for instance, Black Widow Deadly Origins is another great example of that. 70% of her kit nobody knows about and nobody gives a shit about. What do you know about Black Widow Deadly Origins? You know that she inflicts shocks, you know, on her mediums, primarily, and she reduces ability accuracy by X amount. And that's about it. That and, you know, level 2 does some burst damage. And that's it. But if you look at Black Widow Deadly Origins, she has a ton of abilities. Don't give a shit about. Like, I'm gonna show it to you in a second. No, come on. Oh, I can do this with specials. It takes 7 with anyone under 60% of you lose value. Again, we're not talking in principle that you should be able to take defenders with anybody in 60 seconds. Again, we can look at the defenders of old that we have mastered that I think, you know, ultimately looking back, were kind of like the golden era of balanced defensive champion kits. And you have to look no further than somebody like Korg. If you're insanely skilled, right, you can do Korg with about 70% of the champions in game. You will not want to do Korg with, you know, a whole bunch of science champs because you're going to inflict a ton of debuffs that's going to be fueling him. Some of the science champions can do that fine, but it's going to be insanely slow or hard. But the entire idea is, so he's a skilled defender. There's a portion of mutant attackers that counter him very, very well. And, but there's also a portion of random champions that can do this fight well. And the more skilled you are, the more champions with you can do this fight. Right? And again, the more kind of abilities fit to be able to count. For instance, you know, non-contact mediums, you already have much easier time. Don't relying on debuffs, you have easier time, so on and so forth. And ultimately, you can take Korg down with an uncut. Korg was a shitty defender back in the day, but we don't realize how good we had, because right now Korg is kind of like, in my opinion, kind of embodiment of like a very good defensive design, because it rewards a very skilled play, and with that it makes it more available, and the more skilled you are, the more champions you can do that fight with. And then the question becomes the speed. But when you take a look at champions like Serpent, it's effectively have a counter or die, which is completely not fun, in my opinion. Also, Tiger is not good for the Gladiator circuit thing, because weakness basically screws her over a lot. Again, but it's not like it's based on skill alone. It's not like you can do Korg as fast without a proper counter, or as easy without a proper counter. Like, because that is like, I guess what we're talking about is the degree of it. Again, the more skilled you are, the more fights, the more champs you can do Korg with, but you will not be able to nuke Korg with any random champion. And if you have a decent matchup, you know, then you can easily outpace it. That, for example, it's just that balance of where skill does give you an advantage in terms of versatility and who you can use, but, you know, skill doesn't necessarily increase the speed that you can do the fight with, or the ease of it, or, you know, potential for mistakes. Don't you agree? I guess, like, the big issue here is, like, the finality of it. Like, what you're talking about is, like, not being purely based on skill, and I completely agree. And when Korg was, like, the core defender in this game, the game was, again, not purely based on skill. Because, again, having a bigger Korg or a higher Sig Korg gave you an advantage. Or having, you know, more counters at a higher rank and all that stuff. What you are arguing for effectively is, if you whale, you have to have an unsurmountable amount of advantage that is beyond, you know, a ability to overcome a skill at this point. Because that is what Serpent is. Serpent is the type of fight that you cannot overcome. It's a death fight. You have a counter or you die. It's similar to like Bullseye and a whole bunch of different champions they have these days. It's like either you have a counter or you die, or you time out, or you lose half your health. And that's not fun. That is genuinely making the game less fun. At least to most of us who are not, you know, wailing for every champion that we want. But I think it's also for the big whales too, because nobody likes to go in matches and fights knowing you're gonna lose and die and you have no chance, basically. But that's what these champions represent. It's the finality of it. If you don't have an ideal counter, you should be at a disadvantage, but it shouldn't be an automatic loss. I'd say if you have 30 or more, then you're a whale. Well, honestly, I did most of the gentle with anti-venom. Worked out reasonably well. Phoenix bullshit. And Serpent is just as bullshit, because against Serpent, again, you die unless you have... Like, Dark Phoenix is kind of more extreme version of the same ideology, but it's easier fight. Like, Serpent was the best way to put it. Dark Phoenix arguably pushed it even further, because Dark Phoenix is a super easy fight. Dark Phoenix is a super easy fight if you have the good counter. And she's an impossible fight if you don't, basically. That's not that dissimilar from Serpent. Well, again, you are absolutely right. You should, you know, plan for your deck and build it with counters in mind and stuff like that. But if you are dealing with champions where either you have a counter or you lose, then number one, it brings so much more importance to having, you know, those exact counters and those exact champions in order to be able to even compete. And also, the issue there as well is that unless you draft the right champions, you automatically lose a round or a match. In a system like that, and that, I don't think that is what people want from game mode like Valorant. Now, color me stupid, but you would want to have a chance to compete even if you have less than ideal draft, right? Champions like Serpent and Dark Phoenix prevent you from doing that, where it's an automatically lost round. The more champions like Dark Phoenix you have, the more it is just a random RNG fest and you're tossing a coin. You don't die in 7 necessarily. You die with vast majority of champions under vast majority of circumstances in Serpent. And even if you don't die, dying is not the marker that losing is. Because against Serpent, you time out with a whole bunch of champions, or you take enough damage for you not to have a chance to win, and so on and so forth. It's again, dying is not necessarily like, okay, you get KO'd. Losing is, you know, the thing that decides the Valorants. Because in Valorants, you can die and you can win a round. Or you can do a fight well and you can lose a round, right? The dying isn't end-all be-all. I would agree with most of the players and like, oh, there you go. There's a very good reason for it, because it is not fun to most of the players. The reason why it is not fun, because again, we're talking like the levels of degree here. Rather than being a disadvantage with a bad draft, you lose automatically with a bad draft. And I'm not necessarily asking for a certain nerf at this point, just so we are clear. Because I don't know how they can really go back. Because the genie's out of the bottle. Yeah, but again, this isn't a card game. That's part of the reason why I like this game and why I play it. Because it isn't a fucking card game. It's a fighting game. If I wanted to play like a card game and a game like that, you can play like Marvel Snap or whatnot, where it's like turn-based, you know, set moves and things like that. So like you kind of make the point for me here, Sith Supreme. Because this isn't meant to be a card game. This is meant to be a fighting game with elements of, you know, RPG and deck and strategy, stuff like that. But champions like Serpent and champions like Dark Phoenix turn it into a card game to a point where it doesn't matter how well or poor I play. Yeah, again, it is also a collection game. I completely agree. But again, that's the difference, is because it's not purely either or. But champions like Dark Phoenix are effectively, you know, lose because it doesn't matter how well you fight. And that is, you know, as in the card game, which it shouldn't be, because there should be a fighting element to this. And again, this is also a collection game, but primarily it is a fighting game. And champions like all the shit bitch and whatnot turn it into primarily a collection and card game, which is, you know, not the game that I started to play, not the game that I ever at any point wanted to play or this to be. Because again, there are a shit ton of card games out there that you can play. Marvel-based card games, all sort of random RPG card games. And Red Shadow Legends is basically a card game as well. Well, or turn-based fighting game, but it's basically, you know, the point there where there's no, like, fighting and whatnot. You can play all of those games. And, you know, again, to a degree, I like the mix that, you know, in this game, strategy matters more than in a pure fighting game and so on and so forth. And plenty of those things, you know, I do like about this game. But it's kind of like the balance here that's been changed. Where it's getting way too much in RNG, way too much in all of those things before fighting. Ah, fuck you. Again, I think you're kind of not getting the point. Of course, in any version and iteration and any time period, you would always have a chance where opponent gets the better draft. What we are actually talking about is in 2015 or 2018 or 2020 or 22, you'd have a chance if opponent has better draft. In this time, when opponent drafts, you know, Dark Phoenix and you don't have a counter, and opponent drafts Serpent or Bullseye and you don't have a counter, you lose. You have no chance. You get the difference. Because in all of the older iterations of the champions and all of the other matches, you'd be at a disadvantage. But you'd have a chance to do those fights. Now you don't anymore, and that is what is ruining it. I cannot put it like more simple. But yes, at any time in this game, you know, if Balrogans would have existed, opponent could have had the potential for a better draft, obviously. But the difference is that One Bullseye, there are more chance. Okay, shut up. You know that's stupid. That argument is just stupid ass, and you should be ashamed for even making it. One Bullseye if you don't have enough counters. But we are at a point where, in combination with the nodes, there are too many things to ban. You can't ban everybody. You only have 3 fucking bans. And again, like, if you don't have enough counters, tell me what is enough counters for Serpent, for instance, because, you know, I can have like 5 counters dedicated to Serpent, my opponent bans 3, and I don't get lucky enough to draft the 2 and I have 0. That ban argument is just retarded as fuck. Ah, fuck off. Like, yeah, I mean, Enchantress is... Again, Enchantress is in a bit different boat. Enchantress is also a shit design, but it's kind of for slightly different reasons. The reason why Enchantress is such a crappy design, specifically, is because that is a fight where anything can happen. Because it's entirely based on RNG. You can have, like, a champion that's basically ideal to counter her, and the fight can still go to shits up very fast and very easily. Because, you know, for instance, Spider-Woman's made to counter her, but, you know, if she starts with a miss, and, you know, you just get smacked, and if you get unlucky with the misses, and so on and so forth. Like, you have champions that are, like, good against enchanters, like Silk, or something, but those fights can still go fucking wrong. Even, yeah, that's kind of... And also, Enchantress is just basically unplayable under specific metas. Of course, there are a lot of moving parts. Nobody's denying it. Again, we're all talking here about, you know, the margins and the finality of it. And nobody's trying to say, you know, what Kabam has to do is easy. Or that, you know, there's like a perfect way to do it. What we're talking about right now is what Kabam has done has made the game less fun. More shit. For, you know, competitive play. And, you know, we don't like it. Nobody's trying to say, like, oh, it's just piss easy, do this and do that and stuff like that. At least I'm not. But yeah, Sith, like, again, like, if I draft Bullseye first, I'm probably gonna lose, but if I, you know, draft him last, then I'm gonna be fine. And again, the difference we're talking about here is, we're drafting Bullseye last, should give opponent, for instance, an advantage, if they do catch you out on that, but it shouldn't be an auto-lose round, you know what I mean? Like, for instance, again, yeah, like, you know, Dark Phoenix draft at the end, you're fucking done, boy. Stop, Randy. Of course you could. Stop, Oliver. Oh yeah, for returning players, Kabam has done a very good job to allow new players to kind of catch up relatively quickly. I will completely admit and agree that. I need to get Bastion title? And Witcher went... I have no idea, buddy. I don't even want to think about it. It's some filthy number, typically. Again, it's like, because you are more of a BG's player, okay, more focused in war. I mean, fine, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying like the things and the issues that I'm discussing right now are relevant to everybody. Absolutely not. It's you know, Kabam could completely destroy one. What's the best way to put it? I'm trying to word it out perfectly. In war, currently, the way things are balanced, yeah, you know, for most part, you can manage fights. And if you're happy with that, that's fine. Then the champion design doesn't bother you. If you don't want to play Battlegrounds much, if at all, then, you know, you have very little reason for playing you. Saying, like, I don't care about issues like that is perfectly acceptable answer. Like, when I'm discussing them from Battlegrounds perspective, you can say, it's like, you know what? I don't care about Battlegrounds, and the champion design doesn't bother me too much. Right? That's fine. That's, you know, a stance to hold. I have a different one. It's like for the reasons that I have explained. Also, for me, you know, I think for most people who play Battlegrounds relatively frequently, the thing is that, what's the best way to put it? Those issues are much more alive in Battlegrounds because you also, when you play Battlegrounds, you play it a lot more often. Like, time-wise, fight-wise, match-wise. Like, how many war fights do you have a week? Like, 15? 20? And how many Battlegrounds fights you have a week? Even if you play Battlegrounds, you somewhat, you know, infrequently. You'd still spend more time there, wouldn't you? And I guess the biggest crime here, at least to me and for me, also has been the excuse like, oh, this opens design space and it does this and it does that. But that's the job of the nodes, and it had been up until last couple of years, where champions had some abilities. Everything that we, you know, basically discussed, or much of it, can be avoided if Kabam used nodes more rather than champion innate kits. There you go, much better. Hey, it's not even that bad in BG's. Trap can get C5. Now you're conflating two things. One is like free-to-play aspect, whether pay-to-win, which is not something we discuss right now, because what we discussed right now is the RNG aspect of it, more so, and also, you know, the enjoyment of the game mode. Just because, like, for instance, what's the best way again to put it? I can make C5 as well. I enjoy playing Battlegrounds significantly less because of those elements than I used to. So that's one, because again, ultimately this is a game as well. And, you know, fighting against Bullseye, for instance, without a proper counter is as far from fun that you can get. Especially, you know, if you combine Bullseye with some random power gain node or something. It's just a miserable time and miserable experience. It doesn't mean that, you know, I can't progress in the game mode or it's unplayable. It's just, you know, it is just not fun, you know. And, you know, despite everything else, you know, I kind of want the game to be fun. And we all have different definitions of fun, but let's do it like this. Like, how many of you enjoy fighting Bullseye in a power gain meta with, I don't know, fucking Howard the Duck or something? Or, you know, any random champion that's not particularly good against him? Like, you don't. You just don't. Everyone deals with energy. Again, you are absolutely right. But again, from my point of view, is without all of these defenders, we'd still be dealing with RNG. Because there'd be better drafts, there'd be worse drafts, you know, you'd have like better, you know, if you draft all the nukes that, you know, work the best and so on and so forth, you'd still have an advantage again. What we're talking about, we're kind of going in circles here. What we're discussing and what is the problem here is the finality. It's rather than somebody having an advantage in the match because of a better draft, moving to a point where it's impossible for you to lose because of the draft type thing, or alternatively, it's impossible for you to win when you get outdrafted. Golden age for BGs. I genuinely think that BGs were at their best year 1, when we were kind of like getting used to things and readjusting the champions and testing things out. Because then there were more change happening in the game, and the only issue then was the cheaters and the modders and stuff. That was quite unsufferable and unbearable. But for most part, yeah, kind of liked it in the year 1 the most. Liberal though, yeah. And it isn't fair. Obviously, it's not fair, and you never expect fair. Again, what we're talking about here are the degrees of it. We're not talking, you know, whether there should be an advantage for spending in battlegrounds. We all completely agree to it. We're talking about the level of it. The same thing is like because right now, like for instance, when you get outdrafted, what amount of chance you should have of winning that match or a round. And nobody's arguing that, you know, when an opponent has significantly better draft, it should still be basically equal chance for 50-50 type of thing. Nobody's arguing, but again, where we are approaching right now is close. When you get outdrafted, when you're going up against certain champions, you have 0% chance of doing that fight reasonably well. That is the problem, because, you know, you just don't have a chance anymore. So, I wouldn't call that particularly liberal. I have yet to see anybody provide them with a solution. Well, maybe we don't put a. It's all negative. Okay, so here are like the first thing. I find an issue with that again because there are people whose job it is, you know, to work on these things. It's the same thing, for instance, you know, Apple's gonna make a new iPhone. And there's going to be a whole bunch of shit wrong with it. And they're going to change the UI and stuff like that. I don't know how to make a better phone. I can give my feedback about the things that I don't like about, you know, what they have changed or how the phone is, which is what we're doing. But, you know, I'm not, you know, an engineer or coder or something like that. I can't make a better phone for them. And that is the relationship that we're in. Like, none of us are tasked or rewarded or expected to, you know, do the job for them. Some people just suck at their job, though. And then, you know, they need to get better people, or they need to work harder, or they need, you know, some shake-up internally. But again, it's not to the consumer to design a better product of the company. The same thing is like, if you buy a Nike shoe and it sucks, nobody's expecting you to make a better one. as a consumer, like, at best, you know, if asked, you can provide feedback on what you don't like about a particular shoe or what you don't like about a particular phone. And it's also not that people are not giving them any solutions or anything at all, because people are putting their ideas forward constantly. Be that champion design, be that content design, just about every time content comes out, you know, people do give feedback, and like they do say, like, I'd like to see this, I'd like to see that, and that looks, you know, these type of change made. But it does happen all the time, so saying it doesn't happen is just flat out, you know, wrong. Do you compare? Okay, you can compare this to a shoe or a phone or a movie. You know, you can compare it to anything. It's more so the fact that there is a company that provides a product and then there is a consumer who consumes the product. It's not up to the consumer to improve the product. It is up to the company, if they want to exist, if they want to survive and thrive, to do a better job. It's not up to the person buying an iPhone, buying a game, buying a phone, buying whatever the fuck you want to sell, to do the job for you and improve your product. They can give you feedback about the things that you don't like, and if you're a good company, you listen to it. But yeah, it is, you know, quite as simple. And again, to a counterpoint, you know, first of all, community at large does give a ton of feedback. Like elder difficulty, you know, immediately will says like, there's no point in doing the classic difficulty on this, and that, and that, and that, and you know, that thing's bad. For instance, you know, change the fucking nodes. You know, that has been the feedback from like how long, however many months I have been saying, like, very big part of the reason why elder difficulty sucks is that, you know, all fights are the same. And it's tedious as fuck because all the nodes are all that don't work with half of the champions. Kabam hasn't done that. Despite me trying to give them my solution. I'm not saying that, you know, would be the best solution, but, you know, I have shared my perspective. I have given them suggestions. The same thing comes with champion design. And to a part of it, by the way, this is smaller scale community, here's more unique. And again, it doesn't matter. It's not up to us to do the job. Okay, the time Kabam like puts a 10 grand check a month on my desk, I promise you, I'll spitball all the ideas, because then it's gonna be my job and I'm gonna get paid for that. Right now, as it is, I'm already doing a ton of that without the pay. There are no better people to give advice than the people who play the game, and we do give them advice. I don't even understand where this idea came from that we don't. Because we do it all the time. Like, you do Elder's difficulty. Like, watch my video where I talk about Elder's difficulty when it got released. There are like 5 points, you know. It's too fucking long, it's too fucking tedious, you know, and so on and so forth. Like, when I discuss the tedious part, I'm saying, like, I have done all of these fights 10, 15 times over because nodes haven't been updated in like half a decade. So bang, my advice, update the nodes. Have the nodes been updated? Fuck no. Second piece of advice that I gave them is like, you know, make the fights more individualistically different potentially, because if you do the same fight 25 times in a row, you know, it gets repetitive and gets boring. But have they done that? Not really, no. The first bit of feedback everybody had was like, don't make us do classic difficulty, and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get to it when we get to it. And I'm not saying like, you know, my thoughts, my advice is always like correct, because obviously it isn't. but we do share our thoughts and our potential solutions with them all the fucking time. They won't even let you in CCP because they hate it. They'll can't bias reviews. Yeah, they would not. Oh, there. I think also Solgan is boring except unique bosses. They have made it boring. It didn't used to be the case, and I will not agree that all solo content is boring. For instance, there are aspects of Wheel of Fate and Epoch of Pain that I really liked. Grandmaster Gauntlet, when it was released, it was extremely fun. And even the redesigned version of it, I still kind of enjoyed doing it. I think it's mainly the story content, and that's very, very boring. You said yourself you can't design a champ, so nobody that doesn't actually design understands how hard it is. There has to be ups and downs, and the game would become generic and boring. I mean, currently I can't, yes, because I do not work here. I have not been, told or showed how to, or, given those processes. I'll fully admit I can't design champ. But when I use a champion, I can absolutely, say whether I like that champion or I don't like champion, whether it sucks or not. It's, again, the same principle. When I buy a phone, I can't make a phone, but I can sure shit understand whether I like the phone, whether I think it's a good phone, whether I would recommend it to somebody else, whether I, would want to use the phone, or a shoe, or a fucking table, or a chair, or anything really. You don't have to be able to do something in order to have an opinion about something. It's like, you can't fucking dunk, but you can sure shit think, whether you have an opinion whether Jordan is better than LeBron, whether, Curry is the best shooter of all time or something, right? Again, you don't have to be able to do something to have a reasonable opinion about things. I'm actually very happy with the revival carding ability currently. Yeah, that is very, very good. The problem is, yeah. The problem is that I don't know where to use them, really. The fact that we have so many revives and no outlet for them, I don't like. And yeah, it's, as Lawrence said, you might not be able to design a vehicle, but you can compare a Ferrari to a Lamborghini or to a fucking Fiat Punto or something, and you can make an opinion about all of them. Yeah, we will see a VG stream when the meta starts. Yeah, I mean, to a degree, I definitely do agree with you. Like, if you do have revives in overflow and revives don't really matter, it automatically reduces the stakes, and it makes it less boring. It makes it less thrilling. Part of the reason why Act 6 and a bunch of other content was kind of more engaging was because losing mattered, because you have a limited amount of revives and stuff like that. But whenever Kabam releases new content right now, because of all of the extra revives and all of the green crystal stuff like that, I just about know that I'm going to be able to do that content, come range, sunshine, or whatever, because I have, like, I'm not going to say unlimited amount of revives, but at any given point on my account, I probably have, like, a couple hundred revives. So that is one of the things that does kind of take the thrill away. Obviously, to approach that, there are two options. Whether Kabam designs more content that demands and dictates the use of revives, which some people will, be very against, or Kabam reduces the total amount of revives available that we can earn, which some people will be against either. I don't think there is a perfect, call that would satisfy everybody. And I'm sure that the difference here is, like, a lot of people would be happy with the status quo where the content's kind of boring and you just get it done fairly easily and inexpensively, but you have the rewards guaranteed. And then there's part of players like yourself who's saying, like, solo content's boring, and realistically that would be one of the things that changes it. You don't like something you do typically. Hang on a moment. Phone card to see. Yeah, you do. In many cases, yeah, you do. Because again, like for instance, you can be a fan of the brand and you can absolutely love some aspect of it, but you can absolutely be pissed off with other aspects of it. Like a good example here would be the Leatherman multi-tool company thing. The multi-tool, community in general, and specifically in terms of Leatherman. Leatherman ultimately are kind of like the premium multi-tools out there. They're very rigid and they don't do a lot of things that their community would want them to do, so they do all sorts of different mods and basically mess around with those multi-tools because they're kind of convinced that Leatherman hates money. And people still use Leatherman tools, but they go out of their way to either modify them or buy like extra tools to cover for their weaknesses and stuff like that, because there are aspects of those tools, that people have come to love. And it's kind of like a brand, it's, the entire community. And it's kind of similar thing with, I don't know, Apple users, for instance, or like any brand loyalty type things, where Apple customers that live in Apple ecosystem, want certain things to be changed and don't like a lot of things, but they still use Apple products because they do like them. And it's a similar thing here with MCOC, just like I think at this point to a worse degree, where ultimately there are many things about this game that we all love. It's just there are a lot of things, and increasingly more things, that we don't. Don't you agree? Alright, I need to time out Sith, babysit. Let's give him 5 minutes. Sorry Sith. Sorry, buddy. Well, Bible Bros to show off. Yeah, I mean, that is part of it. But, such thing as like brand loyalty exists as well as product loyalty. For instance, there are car guys also who like only drive Audi and only like Audi, but they're gonna, shit on Audi for their bad decisions and, not be supportive of everything that they do. But they still, will want to get the next Audi or find which one they want. Or like any car brand, for instance. That is true. With the now, one more thing that I think has kind of like cost this game quite a lot, if you ask me, is Kabam's refusal to make aspirational content. Because, when Labyrinth of Legends was released, for instance, very few people were expected to do it like, immediately within a month. And it was the type of content that people wanted to get done, many years after, or several years after Labyrinth got released. And right now, we don't really have that as much, because even like the revive cost one, what's the best I do? People were saving up like revives, right, and revive farming and prepping for their Act 6 clears and runs chapter per chapter, or so on and so forth. And it's very much so not quite the case right now with any piece of content in the game, where we don't have any of that big piece of content that you really kind of prep for. Or even the follow-ups to Labyrinth that Kabam released, just about every single follow-up was easier for the time, if that makes sense. Again, I'm not saying it's necessarily the best way to go, and again, here the opinions are going to be split, but dissecting purely historically, as somebody who's been around for all of those content releases, when Labyrinth of Legends got released, you effectively had a cost of like 3 to 4 Odins per path in revives, and nobody had that amount of revives, and you were basically expected to die in these fights, like, I don't know, 8 to 10 times for each fight, and there were like 7 paths, and, you know, healing and all that stuff. So the base idea there was that, yes, like an average path of Labyrinth to most people cost like 3-4 Odins, and then you were accumulating those resources and then doing it over the course of a year. Today, most people wouldn't go for it to begin with, but the point is that the 3 to 4 Odin cost came down to like 1 Odin per path in Abyss of Legends. It was significantly faster and easier at launch to do than Labyrinth was. And then the cost went down even further with Necropolis. So that's definitely changed too. And it's like 1-2 and it's no longer that built up stash. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the difference. Like, because when I explored Labyrinth, I used a shit ton of revives and I had to spend multiples of Odins. I was quite good at the game, but there was still like a couple of Odins per path, basically, or, you know, maybe, you know, whatever. And then Abyss, it was my entire stash plus an Odin or 2. Or it was my entire stash and like some unit offers for revives or something like that. Necropolis came out, I didn't touch anything. It was just my stash. And at the point where, you know, Kabam released Epoch or Wheel of Fate and stuff like that, and they're releasing any of these other like big challenging pieces of content. And again, I just know that I have enough revives for it. You know, I'm gonna get it done. One way or another, it's gonna get done. So that definitely has changed in the game too. Where the initial Everest content was a genuine Everest where people had to build up and, you know, grind the units and farm the revives and prep for it. And now it's much less so. I had no idea love was so expensive. Yeah. Initial realm clears were even more expensive. Initial realm clears were basically impossible. Because of like Wolvie and stuff, and there were like plenty of strategy, like there were plenty of strategies initially against Realm of Legends, but people sucked back then, so keep that in mind. And there's also literally no way to kill Wolverine efficiently, so people came up with different strategies. One was, you know, revive and heal up Electro and just get hit. And then there was like bring in a hard-hitting champion from the get-go, boost up, and, you know, basically hit them until their first heal. And then what? And I think at some point somebody did it by trying to hit the block exclusively, but that was much harder because people used suck. And there's like a whole bunch of this stuff where there's just no way to kill Wolverine efficiently initially. And people spent a shit ton of fucking money for that. How many units should be enough for both Cybercell and Banquet event? 50k plus, yes. But they depreciate rewards quickly and sell far better rewards for an Odin during sales. So that is another thing, because it is very difficult to. Again, Kabam kind of had an answer then.
Shut up and take my money.
Round it up.
Round it up $5. I have been playing this game since it was released.
That's because you're lazy.
I've only done one path in Abyss.
That's because you're lazy, Mr. Round It Up, but thank you for the $5. Yeah, of course I'm ready for the BG start tomorrow. Of course. If I could rank 1 of the 7-star champions right now, who would it be? Honestly, like right now, my favorite champion in the game still is Spider-Woman. I don't know how she's gonna be after her, you know, change, but I think Spider-Woman currently is kind of my favorite champ in the game, and also like top 5 champ overall. So yeah, if she didn't get touched, it definitely would be Spider-Woman. Now I don't even know. Who's Mr. Rounded Up? Who knows? He knows? I might know, but I honestly, no, I don't. I mean, I do, but I don't. So. I mean, I'm just saying. Let me change a buff. Really? Who the fuck is calling it a buff? It really is not. When you say a lot of people, can you name 2? Okay. When you say a lot of people, can you name 2 that are not currently employed or hoping to be employed by Kabam in near future? Let's make the argument here more clear. It is going to have significant impact. Yes. Both on offense and defense. In my opinion. Volatility and Cantona. Oh, interesting. Well, I disagree with that heavily. I most certainly disagree with that. Happy anyway. Who's Sammy? You only have 4 games. Why? Because I was on my honeymoon. That's why. Ah, you suck. Yeah, I mean, that would have been like the preferred solution to a problem that I didn't know we existed. Yeah, but it really isn't a buff, Spider-Man. It really isn't about Spider-Woman. Sammy MCOC? Oh, okay, cool. But okay, I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinions. I'll just say that I disagree. Does it make sense that should appear in cyber cells? Your thoughts? Maybe? I don't know. Oh yeah, I mean that would obviously be a better solution. That would quite frankly be the best solution. Sammy from X Podcast again, like, don't want to talk ill about anybody. Don't, you know, really know the person or don't have a particular reason to have some sort of adversarial relationship with any of them. Wish them the best of luck. Will disagree with the things that I disagree with, and that's it. Everybody in chat get 1000 watt. Yeah. If you open MCOC and start grinding arena, eventually you will get 1000 too. You know the saying is like, you know, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach the man how to fish, feed him for a lifetime. Or whatever that was. So I'm just showing you how to grind for them. So you can have many thousands of units. A fish? I would have also liked if you left her alone. Second best option would have been, yeah, remove it from the defense and leave it on attack, or give her a pre-fight. That would be pre-fight is the preferable solution, or the leave it on defense and attack. That would also be decent. This is better than nothing, but it's still not making me particularly happy. I don't know, like 50k I think at some point. Think leader is worth class ranking ninja? No. Alright, let's break it down and take a look at it quickly, but I don't think it really mattered that much. That's kind of the funny thing, is I barely know how to use leader in like a generic fight unless there is mega region or power gain involved. I know level 1 is region reversal, level 2 is power gain reversal. You want to intercept or do the green door thing. Well, personally, the opponent gains a steadfast passive. I don't think this is significant at all. Personal fury effects, this is not significant at all because you'll never use him for his own damage, and his own damage is abysmal. Intercepting the opponent with light attack has 35 to 100% chance of only personal spectre or with the debuff. I think you're fine without. Honestly, like, I wouldn't give him a gem. I mean, that is also true. I think the current rebalance program has very little to do with actual balance. Shit, I need to quickly do this. Yeah, before I forget. Because I think it actually has very little to do with game balance. It has to do with, you know, them covering their asses up and fixing, you know, making things how they want. Was a perfectly fine way to put it. So yeah, I guess I'm going to be inclined to agree with you there. It's a free pass. Yeah, like that's what I said at the beginning of it. Like from the very beginning, I was like quite a bit against the rebalance program because players benefit nothing from it. It's only Kabam that has the benefit of the balance program overall. Much of what has been done to the champions, you know, should be done with bigger lead times and more time in champion development and testing, which is quite clear that they are using us as sort of a, like, you know, bait program. You could kind of agree if they had like I don't even know what's the best way to word it, but the main argument here against the rebalance program, especially the way it has happened, is whenever Kabam tunes up a champion, barely anybody in the community benefits from it, because in almost all the cases, vast majority of the cases, you know, nobody used Patriot before, nobody's using Patriot now. Or even when they do champions like Silver Sable, where Silver Sable was like an absolute meme tier champion, they tune her up and she's okay. Is it like a significant, is she a relevant, significant meta champion? Not really, no. So it still doesn't affect, you know, everybody in the community. And in these more extreme cases, you know, like Shuri or something like that, they just can squeeze in a quick champion buff without them having to need a rebalance program like they have done in the past. Right? Because before the rebalance program and all that stuff, we still had, you know, tune-ups and buffs and whatnot. And without it needing to be officially a 6-month evaluation period, Kabam could have just done that. And yeah, it takes way too long to rebalance them. They do it in way too long a fashion. But the point is that in majority of the cases, a tune-up on a champion ends up not mattering at all. And in the cases that the tune-up does matter, we can still have that without the rebalance program, with Kabam just doing, you know, random tune-ups here and there like they used to. And the results then were way better. Like the tune-ups and moderate buffs, remember? Like all of those things gave us like Hulk and Kingpin and Mallman and a whole chunk of good champions came out of that program. Basically nothing has come out good out of this program. And the other side of it is, when there is a balance down, it affects everybody. Like Spider-Woman, everybody who has a Spider-Woman ranks up Spider-Woman. And then when you adjust her even slightly, it has much bigger impact to the game than, you know, a massive buff on a champion that nobody uses. That's still not good enough. So, yeah, and I think that has kind of been like the hallmark of Kabam over the last couple of years. They took things that we kind of liked or did like about the game and made them worse. The same thing with Titan Crystals. Like, which one of you think the Titan Shards and Titan Crystals were a good idea? I personally don't. You know, we used to have 6 stars and featured 6-star crystals, and we used to be able to choose how we use our shards and whether we, you know, open more crystals and go for the base pool or go for the featured pools every, you know, X amount of months and use our shards there. And number 1, we had a choice. And number 2, we didn't have to wait for so long for the champions to enter the pools and stuff like that. And I think the Titan change again has been bad. So, you know, they took a system that was kind of okay with the featured crystals and made it worse. We had a balanced buff program. Well, before rebalance program, we had a buff program where we got like, you know, 2 to 3 buffs a month or tune-ups or something. And people loved that. That was like one of the most exciting things about the game for like a year and a half. And instead, we have a rebalance program now that's just another disappointing follow-up. So, there's a lot of that happening, where Kabam are changing things, but not for the betterment of players. Realistically speaking, how many people do you think would have been upset if they nerfed Serpent? Because I think a lot of people would be upset. I think a shit ton of people would be upset. Oh yeah, the OG featured crystals were the best ones. So Kabam introduced the new featured crystals, which were still, you know, not as good, but still decent. And now we have Titan crystals, which are more shit than both of those. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like when Legacy was doing his like petition and all that stuff, there were a lot of people who wanted him nerfed. Bastion seems all happy to me. I am legally not allowed to agree with you, because everybody on this channel, whether I like it or not, has taken it upon themselves to declare me a Bastion hater for some reason. So I will just refrain from commenting at all. My official response, whenever questioned about Bastion, is he's a very good AW champion. That's all I have to say in the matter. Bastion is in fact very good for Alliance War. I have nothing else to say in this matter. Yeah. I think Serpent should have been nerfed, but I moved on. Okay, no. I mean, everybody in the community moved on. But again, it is, as I described it before, kind of like a nexus point. What are the best things? What's the best way to say it? We wanted Serpent to be nerfed. He didn't get nerfed. We accepted it, and we moved on. We kept playing the game, and it's not like, you know, every single day we are making threads about Serpent should have been nerfed and stuff like that. However, at the same time, Kabam not nerfing Serpent changed the rules, changed the perception of, you know, what is to be nerfed and what is balanced and what isn't balanced. And it set a new standard to them. And that, again, is something that's a fact that has happened. You can never go back to a point where you know, that didn't happen anymore, because you now have that precedent. Because in any other context, it creates a double standard. And people hate that. You can apply that to like any other area as well. As an example, you know, if you call somebody a cunt online and you put that person in the prison, and then a week later, somebody else calls somebody else a cunt, and they don't put that person in the prison. That is a double standard, and people will hate that. Because the existing standard did not get applied evenly. And so the standard is whether you can or you can't call anybody a cunt. But you have to stick to it, and Kabam doesn't. Or like in the case of America, current existing standard is you can walk up to somebody in the street and punch them in the face repeatedly and spit on them. And nothing's effectively going to happen on you. You're going to get taken to jail, and they're going to give you probation. They're going to let you out after, you know, you have punched 50 people. Then, you can't take a guy who goes and punches... Like, after you have let out the guy that has punched 50 people in the face, you can't take a guy that has punched one person in the face and put him for 10 years in the jail. Because that is, you know, different standard. It's the same thing with Serpent right now. Where... if Serpent didn't get tuned down, absolutely nothing in this game ever since Serpent has any business being tuned down. And we moved on from it. We accepted it. Serpent is balanced, fine. But if Serpent's balanced, then sure, shit, Spider-Woman is balanced. You know what I mean? Yeah, Serpent is an issue in many game modes. And Serpent can be made into an issue in every game mode with addition of nodes or champion restrictions for objectives and stuff like that. Yeah, in Arena, you often just quit out against Serpent, for example. Or, its overall perception of the power. Because Serpent's clearly one of the most powerful defenders in the game, that's one. And the second thing is, he's also an insane attacker, and he's just... You know, again, when you look at any like tier list or who people think are the best champions in the game, Serpent is a top champ. Serpent is a top 3 champion in the game, both for his attack and defense, because he's also absolutely busted offensively. And again, Spider-Woman was not that, as an example. Spider-Woman was a good champion, but she was still, in my opinion, a step below like Serpent, Thanos, and Onslaught and whatnot. But Serpent didn't get narrowed down, Spider-Man did. Ah, whoopsies. Chat with technology. They're being allowed to find new defenders unless you both their counters. Isn't what's fun? Damn straight. Remove it in, bring up poke. That's an option. That by the way was one of the things there with me as well, where I don't mind poker as kind of like a casual side event type thing at all, but it was very hard to combine poker existing with arena existing in terms of how they structured it. I think it would be worth giving it a go. I'm not saying I'd love it, but there is a reasonable argument to be made for doing exactly that, basically. For removing arena from the game altogether and transmigrating the rewards from arenas into that poker game mode. Because, as far as I'm concerned, they're both fairly similar. They're both kind of mind-numbing that, barely require, any skill in the game or paying attention, just requires you kind of grinding away there. And yeah, with some changes, yeah, I can see that working. I'm not saying it would, but again, it's something that I would give it a chance. Okoye over Black Panther Civil War. For me, anyways. Again, removing arena in its own would be Kabam's wet dream, but again, putting exactly the same unit earning potential in the poker game mode, for example, and putting ball chips in it and all that stuff, I think it could work. This year it's old when I realized Sentinel this meta sucks. Why? Which meta are we talking about, by the way? And again, there'll never be a way to make everyone happy. Absolutely. And nobody expects Kabam to make everybody happy. Oh, of course, no willpower. Chidera really lost, okay? Again, Black Panther, Civil War, or Awaken. Do you have 6 stones? Are you prepared to invest 6 stones in Black Panther Civil War? Nico, the more 6 the better. Meanwhile, you guys can hit that like button, sub button, all the good buttons. Or else. And I think again, there are a few more things that we don't kind of like talk about enough as a community. One of them is definitely, again, still the fun aspect of the game. I think that's disappearing. And there are many reasons of it. And again, Sid can argue like in favor of champions like Serpent and stuff like that. And I don't think he's correct, to be clear. I think just about every single position that Sith Supreme has, taken in this stream ultimately is wrong. Or inaccurate, or I don't share it. But another thing that is kind of important is the fact that much of it doesn't matter, because Kabam can be like technically right, and Kabam can do technically the correct things for like quote unquote the balance of the game or their own vision or their profit charts or whatever. What matters most is whether players like it and enjoy it, and whether players come or leave, or whether players spend more money or don't. And you can do all the right things if you're convinced that they're right, but at the end of the day, none of it will matter or does matter if the players disagree with you or are not happy with you or don't see the way you do. A great example here would be that maybe the top 30 prestige move is good for the game in the long term somehow, one way or another. I fail to see that being good for me and most players in the game that are not mega whales. But fine, maybe it has a positive impact on the game year or two down the line. It doesn't matter if Kabam is unable to convince the player base of it and half of it or a portion of it leaves before that becomes apparent. Because again, this is Kabam's job to convince us that they're doing like correct, the good thing, and so on and so forth. And likewise, it's the same thing about champion design. Sith Supreme can defend champions like Serpent all day. And it's just absolutely fucking irrelevant if most of the people don't find, you know, them being better for the game, or don't find it fun to fight them, or don't, you know what I mean? Because ultimately, again, that is, you know, the type of area where we're at, where consumer satisfaction, enjoyment of the game, all of that stuff matters as much, if not more, than, you know, the realities of things. No. Told I'm wrong because I have a different opinion as well. No, I said you were either wrong or you had an opinion that I do not share. Because there were some things factually that you were wrong about. And there were opinions that you hold that I don't agree with. There are two different things. You see? Ah, shit, this is gonna be a nightmare arena. This is gonna shoot much, man. And yeah, like a lot of this, you know, for instance, if Kabam had great relationship with the player base, and if they had showed themselves to be like a competent company that does care for player satisfaction, all that stuff, many of the issues that they have had wouldn't necessarily be there. For instance, even the Spider-Woman. Watch the playback? Okay, then I might have misspoken, but you know what I mean. But the point what I said is that I do think that plenty of things that you said are wrong, but I didn't say that your opinions are... I think I didn't say that your opinions are wrong. I meant to say that there are opinions that I do not share. If I was wrong, fair enough. But I would like to see that playback, if you can cut it though. Either way. See? YT user also says that he heard that, which is what I meant to say. We're gonna have to do a playback. I'm betting on KT personally. Either I view the game. No, that is perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. Hence, I accounted for the part that I do not share those opinions. Everybody's wrong sometimes here. But yeah, back to the point that I was making. Even if Kabam is, you know, like, as an example, for instance, if the Serpent situation didn't happen and Kabam has been like spot on with champion balancing and they genuinely balance the champions that do need the balance, and we had more confidence in balance program specifically, Spider-Woman thing wouldn't be a big situation. If we collectively, as a community, had a ton of kind of like trust in Kabam had built up credibility with us, we'd be like, okay, they probably have seen the data, they are probably right. Or you know, okay, it kind of sucks, whatever, but you know, it makes sense. That can only happen if we believe Kabam to have, you know, the best interest at heart to make this game the best they can. That's absolutely not the case. Hence, you know, the Spider-Woman situation. But it only exists because we have fairly little faith in Kabam as a whole. And for good reason, by the way. Because in past, they have done awful shitty things. And they continue to do them. Ah, shit, I'm gonna be so screwed. I don't know, maybe he's in. What's energy word? Check line and show YT. Okay. Okay. One second. It's gonna be laggy on my line though. In 1 second. The moment it's through. Because I don't know why video playback on my PC from line is so laggy. There's some sort of playback error. I shit you not. Yeah, exactly. I trust Kabam's data, just not their ability to read or interpret it. That's another thing. And again, I trust that Kabam has the right data. I don't necessarily always trust that they're giving it to us correctly. I cannot open it. I will after the stream, I promise. Because it's just throwing an error when I try to open the video now. Use your phone? Oh, god damn it. Fine. 1 second. Then if I use my phone, I will not be able to hear it unless I unplug it. Okay, fine, I unplugged it. Many reasons of it. And again, Sid can argue like in favor of champions like Serpent and stuff like that. And I don't think he's correct, to be clear. I think just about every single position that Sith Supreme has, taken in this stream ultimately is wrong. Or inaccurate. Again, at no point I said that about your opinion. I said about your positions. Like, okay, so 1 second, I'll play it here. And again, Sid can argue. Okay, 1 second. You like in fact many reasons of it. And again, Sid can argue like in favor of champions like Serpent. Okay, 1 second. Or inaccurate, and then it cut off. But also, I never said that specifically about. So I don't think he's correct. To be honest, I think just about every single position that Sith Supreme has, taken in this stream ultimately is wrong, or inaccurate. My position again. Yeah, but I do think they are wrong or inaccurate. And I genuinely, and I still say that. And again, what did it say afterwards? I said inaccurate. Where you cut it off. Latvia actually has some of the fastest internet in the world. FYI. It's like one of the things that Latvia is known for. I feel like we're getting scammed by Sid. I do it too, because it did cut off there. And also, just so we are perfectly clear, positions that people take on matters can be wrong and inaccurate as well. As in, let's do something very basic. Let's say Sith Supreme comes to me and tells me that I think a loaf of bread should cost, a quarter of your average person's monthly income. I think that is wrong. I think that's a very bad take. I think that shouldn't be the case. So, there is some sort of this myth about the idea that it's my opinion, it can never be wrong or bad. Sure as shit, everybody's opinions can be wrong and bad and dumb and stupid. You are perfectly entitled to have them. You are absolutely not entitled for everybody to agree with them, or, you know, there is such a thing as a stupid opinion. There is such a thing as a stupid question. In my personal opinion. And yeah, I did separate them. I did indeed, buddy. Stupid rhino buff, man. Gonna be a menace in the meta, though. You changed topic slightly? No! How? Okay. One second. I'm gonna finish up the stream in a second. I'll just get to the million points. I'll listen to it afterwards. But again, positions that people take can be wrong and inaccurate. In which case, I believe both of those still apply to Sith. Even today. There we go. Now we're getting into semantics and technicality. I kind of like that. Because I do like to play with words quite a bit. I generally also do try my best to phrase myself quite carefully, unless I'm like ranting, but even when I'm ranting to a degree. And part of that is specifically adding words like I think or I believe, and so on and so forth. Oh, fuck off. Up hype. Who is Vislabakajam Lietam? Vislabakajam Lietam is Latvian, but it is something in Latvian. But you need to figure out what it is. The best shop to use in Werewolf, Domino, Black Cat's fine. Lady Deathstrike's fine. North Star's fine. Basically, double medium hit champions. Champions whose first hit is a double medium. Die. Really? You're still alive? Where did I finish last season in BGs? I think it was C6. I didn't play for last like 10 days of the season. But I think I hanged in there. C6, yeah. Didn't play because I was on my honeymoon, which I enjoyed very much, thank you. Scores are low as they have been for some time. Good. And Terra Pinky. Oh, my opponents. That is a good name though. Sounds like a nice name. Why did you throw that? Yeah, well, I'm sure 10, 12. I only have 3. I'm sure you can catch up, hype. Translates for the best thing. Basically, it just means, you know, let's talk about the best things. But made you look it up though. Right. That's it for this stream. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. Bye bye.